Hi, we had previously made some milestones with regards to setting up React and Redux, using core Redux and getting some pages up and running. But as it is with technology, things keep on changing.
Oh no!
In the short time that has passed, a new version of React Router DOM was released. That is version 6, which is now the recommended version to use. As if that is not enough, it's also official from the Redux team that Redux applications should now be set up using Redux Toolkit. Redux Toolkit helps solve these pain points that React Redux developers have had. 1. Configuring a Redux store is too complicated. 2. A lot of packages have to be added to get Redux to do anything useful. 3. Redux requires too much boilerplate. A huge shout out to one of my subscribers, that is Caesar, aka Paxnot, for bringing this up to my attention. This now essentially means that we are going to rewrite our React Redux frontend to follow these new patterns. Don't worry, what you learned about setting up Redux manually is still valuable and will make understanding Redux Toolkit much easier. Also, we shall be moving away from Ant design and using React Bootstrap, since most of you, especially those just beginning, say that they were finding it hard to use Ant design. So we shall be using the simpler to use React Bootstrap. If you still prefer Ant design, you can continue on with it, it doesn't really matter. Before we start, I think this is the time to shamelessly promote my new Django REST API course on Udemy. If you want to go much further than we did in this tutorial series with regards to APIs with the Django REST Framework and the usual suspects of NGINX, Celery, Redis, RabbitMQ, Flower and much more from development to production, consider checking this course out. Link in the description. So let's begin. So this is what we had built previously. So let's bring down our containers. So go back to your terminal. So here we can just say make down. We shall use git's hard reset to move the current head to the commit of interest to us. In our case, the commit of interest is our last commit before we started building our React frontend. That is, all routes work in containers. I hope you have been making commits the way I have been doing throughout this tutorial series. So you can go back to VS Code. Then we're going to click on the git source control button. Then click on git history. Yeah. Then the commit of interest to us is here. Test all routes work in containers. So what you're basically going to do here is just come and click on hard reset. You're going to be given a warning. It's reversible. So let's just proceed with that. Good. And now our current head points to test all routes work in containers. So if you go back to our project, that's going to be our proper starting point. So after this reset, let's completely delete the client directory. We are going to rebuild it shortly using the create React app with the Redux Toolkit template. So just delete that. Then, since many of you didn't particularly like the Ant design component framework that we used previously, this time around we shall use React Bootstrap. It's quite simple to use. Ideally, all these UI component frameworks are mostly the same, so pick what you like best. So let's now set up our React client. So kindly ensure, as usual, you have Node.js installed in a machine. Then in your terminal, you're going to navigate to the root directory where manage.py file is located and create a new React app. So let's just do that. So here we can just do an ls, see in our current working directory, manage.py. So this time we're going to say npx create React app. We're going to call this client, and then we're going to use the template of Redux. Good. Once the dependencies are installed, navigate to the client directory and then we run the local server. Let's clear the terminal and cd into client. Then let's run the local server. It's npm start. Then a browser window should open. And this time we're going to get the default Redux Toolkit landing page with the basic counter app. So just add that up. Just the basic counter app. So if you want to see how this is built, go back to client. And you're going to see the new files and folders set up by Redux Toolkit. So here in SRC, we can see we have our Redux store. The Redux store is in app, store.js. And then on features, we have the counter. We have the counter here where we have the counter.js. Then the slice, we're going to get into slicing in the next sections. Then the counter API, where we do our API calls, and then the slice. Then the module, that's the CSS module. Yeah. So what you're going to do is later on, we're going to remove this counter slice and we're going to create our own slices from scratch so that you learn the basics of Redux Toolkit. So in the meantime, you can stop the running server. That is Control C. And then in the client directory, make sure you're in the client directory. We're going to remove git and git ignore. So you can say rm-rf.git and then rm-rf.git ignore. Good. Then in the Django project.git ignore file, confirm that client node modules is still part of the files being ignored. So let's just close all this. Then let's just confirm here where you git ignore. We're still ignoring client node modules. That's okay. So with Redux Toolkit, a store is automatically created for us in the app directory, as we have seen, as well as a features directory, which houses the counter slice. We're going to get into slices later. So first, we're going to delete all the files we shall not be needing in this tutorial, such as the counter directory, logo, app test, app CSS, and setup test.js files. So here we can just come and delete this features counter file. Sorry, counter folder. Just delete all of that. Then after deleting the counter directory, you're going to delete test.js. Delete that. You don't need the logo. That can go. Then setup test.js. That can also go. Then also get rid of app.css. Good. Then we're going to change the app store.js file to remove references to the counter slice. So go to the app directory here, store.js, remove any reference to the counter slice that we've deleted. So get that out. Then this reducer, get that out. Then save that file. Then we're going to amend the app.js file. So come back to app.js. Since I like ending files that will contain JSX with a .jsx extension, I'm going to change this file name. So this, you can just change this if you want. You can leave it at JS, but I like adding JSX for files that are going to contain JSX. And then I also prefer using arrow functions. So here I can change this to const app. Whoa. The const app is equals to, you can use a normal function if you want, but I just prefer arrow functions. Then we're going to clear out things we don't need, like the logo, counter, the slice. Then just delete everything here. Then all you're going to have here, let's say class name app. Then you're just going to say heading 1. This is going to be welcome to the real estate. That. Then save that file. Now, if you run the local server with npm start, the default heading 1 should load. Let's confirm that. Now let's do npm start. Just confirm things are okay. Go back to your browser. Good. Welcome to real estate. Things are working. So back in the root client directory where the package.json is located, we're going to create a Docker directory, and in that directory, we're going to create a local directory. So back in client, let's just close all this here. Let's create a new directory. So on client, we're going to create a new directory here. We're going to call this Docker. Then here we're going to create a new directory again. We're going to call this local. Then we're going to create a Docker file. Whoa, this is a Docker file for client. So here we're basically going to use multi-stage builds. So what you can do is, so by the way, if you want to know more about Docker production best practices, I already have a video on this channel on that. So you can check that out. So let's proceed. We can say our first argument here is going to be for the node version. So I can say the node underscore version. We're going to use node version 16.14 Alpine, like that. Then we can say from node version, then bring in not node version like that. So you can say from node, so from node, then full colon, then bring in the variable of node version. Come on, just copy that. That's the only part we need. Bring in node version, then give it an alias, as the alias is going to be node. Then we can say now from node as the client local build. Then you're going to have an argument. No, this from is capital. Then we can have another argument here. So you can say argument app home underscore home. The home directory is going to be on /app. Then you're going to declare a working directory. Then put in the variable app home. So these multiple from statements, we're using what are called multi-stage builds. As I said before, you can check the Docker production best practices video on my channel. It will explain more on this. Then we're going to install the app dependencies. So we can say copy, we want to copy package.json, .json like that, anything star.json. This basically means you're going to copy package.json and any other package JSON file like we have here, package lock.json. We're going to copy that to the working directory. Then we're going to run npm install. Then we're going to have another copy command. So you can say copy everything to our working directory, which is, we give it a variable of app home like that. And then you're going to have the cmd command. So here we're basically going to run npm start like that and save that file. So with that done, in the same client root directory, we're going to add a .docker-ignore file. This will prevent the usual local modules and debug logs from being copied over to your Docker image. What you can do here on client, we had also done this before actually, so I don't really need to explain much. You can say docker-ignore, and here we're basically going to ignore node modules. Then you can say npm debug log, then any readme files. You can add anything else you don't want ignored. So you don't want to build it into your Docker image, then save that file. Then with our client Docker file created, let's add a client service to the already existing docker compose.yml file. So we can go back to our root directory on state.src. Let's close all this. Then go back to docker compose.yml. So here, let's bring back our client service. So we have API service here. Then because of the hard reset we're done, some of the changes we've done before were also revoked. So we have to rebuild this. So we can say here, client, so client, we're going to tab it in, then say build, then tab that in, the context. This time the context is going to be .client, not dot as we did before. This is going to be ./client. Then the Docker file we're going to use is going to be on ./docker/local/Docker file. That. Then we're going to have a restart policy. So you can say restart here is on failure. Then volumes. So here we're going to do the first volume. Here we can say ./client, map it to app like that. Then next we're going to have one for /app/node modules. And then lastly, networks. So for the networks here, we can tap this in and say it was estate React. Let me just confirm. Save this. Let's confirm the networks here was estate React. That should be it. So the client service added, let's amend the previously created NGINX default.conf file to account for the client service. All you want to do is for the client and the server to run on the same port. So what you do here, we go back to estate src, then we look at Docker, where are you? Docker, then we look at local, NGINX, then defaults.conf. Yeah. So we need to make some changes again. We're going to say the upstream here is going to be client, and the server client is going to be running on port 3000. Then the rest remains the same. What you're going to do different this time around, let me see, super secret. Then we have static files, media files. So we're going to add another location for our WebSocket. You can say location. This is different from what we did last time, so please take note. The WebSocket like that. We're going to pass in the normal proxy pass to client. So I can just bring this in. You can say proxy pass to client. Then proxy HTTP version is going to be 1.1. Let me see, do we have that anywhere here to copy? Okay, I'm too lazy to type. Okay, we can do proxy _HTTP _version. This is going to be 1.1 like that. Then upgrade, let me see, we don't. So here we can say proxy set header, proxy _set _header like that. We can say upgrade, and then HTTP upgrade, HTTP upgrade. Then lastly, we're going to say proxy set _header. Then you can say connection is going to be upgrade. like that. So remember last time it was sock.js, I think, but this time it is location is to WebSocket because you're using Redux Toolkit with the create React app. You don't make these changes, auto reloading in development will be a nightmare. Then lastly, we're going to do as we did last time for the location of home for the client, which remains the same. There nothing changes. So location of / proxy pass to client. Then save that file. Then next, you're going to create a .env file in your client root directory. That's at the same level as package.json file, and create this config for your web sockets. So go to client here, create a new file called .env. Then you can say here WDS. Then you can say socket port is equals to 0. Then save that file. Then let's add our API service to the allowed hosts in the .env file. Now not this particular .env file, but the one for Python in the root directory. So go back to root directory, .env file here. Then allowed hosts, API, make sure that is there. And then we're going to add our, so with all that configuration done, let's rebuild our containers. So go back to terminal here. Let's stop this webpack. Then make sure we navigate to the root directory out of the client. Then now we can run make build. Okay, as usual, we made a mistake. So here it's saying we can't run npm run install. So app package.json. Okay, let's go back to our Docker file. Yeah. Okay, and I think the problem, wow, this is supposed to be, wow, this is just wrong. I hope most of you had gotten this before, the mistake. So we are copying package.package_star.json to the working directory like that. So let's save this file, go back, let's make run build again. Good, this time our containers are built successfully. So we can test the loading of the pages. So go back to your browser. This time test localhost 8080. We should get the same response. Now we're no longer running on 3000, we're running on 8080. Then also test the admin page. So our admin was super secret. Let's just reload that. Yes, everything is working correctly. And what else? Let's try, let me see, what can we do? We can try localhost 8080. If we go to /API/v1/properties/all like we did previously. Good, our REST API is working, so we are good. So now that our backend and frontend are running on the same port, which is 8080, let's commit our code. And as you have seen in the beginning of this section, the importance of making like atomic or small commits after you finish some features. So you can go here and say this was a chore. You can do setting up. So set up NGINX and Redux. And Redux Toolkit with Docker. Then let's make that commit. Now we're at a safe space to start configuring Redux Toolkit. So what you can do here, go back to your terminal, clear all this, make done. Good, with our containers down, now let's get down to the meat and potatoes of Redux Toolkit now that we have a clean working slate. So this time, let's just clear all this. We're going to install some dependencies. One is going to be Axios, which is our promise-based HTTP client. 2, we're going to install React Icons, which is an icon pack for React projects. 3, we're going to use React Redux, which is as usual, our React UI binding layer for Redux. Then we're going to use React Router DOM version 6 for dynamic routing between React components. We're going to add React Toastify to help us with our notifications. Then we're going to be using React Bootstrap, which is our component library. Then React Router Bootstrap, which integrates between React Router version 6 and React Bootstrap. After all that talking, so let's go back to our terminal. As usual, make sure you navigate to the client directory, please. So cd into client. Then now let's install all this. So you can say npm install Axios. You're going to add React Icons. You're going to use React Redux. Then React Router DOM. Then React Toastify. We're going to add adding React Bootstrap. Then We're going to be adding Bootstrap at version 5.13, 5.1.3. Then you're going to be adding React Router Bootstrap. Install all that. Good. Let's just confirm. Go back to your IDE, then look at package.json. As you can see, they are added: React icons, router bootstrap, Toastify. Yeah, these all seem to be added. Then let's clear the terminal. Then remember the golden rule when working with Docker containers. Once you add any new requirements or packages, you have to rebuild the containers, because packages or requirements are installed at build time and not runtime. So you can say here, make build. Whoa, I made a mistake. I'm in the client directory. I was caught by my own warning. Okay, cd out of the client directory. Then you can say make build. So do that. Good. With our containers built, now we're going to add in the bootstrap. We're going to add in the bootstrap CDN. So to go back to your browser and just go to get started bootstrap. Then this is the CDN link we want to copy at CSS. So copy that file. Then what you're going to do is come back to your client directory here. Then go to src. Sorry, not src. Go to client, then public, then index.html. Then let's... Personally, I hate all these comments, so let's just get rid of all these comments. Get rid of that one. Make things a bit neater. Then at the top here, you can just bring in your CDN link. So just paste that in there. And then let's change this to real estate, the title. Then save that file. This should auto-reload actually, since we built our containers. If you go back, yes, it's real estate. It's been auto-reloaded. Nice. Since our refresh is working, let's proceed. In the GitHub repo for this project, you will find the CSS styles I've used for this project in the src index.css file. We shall not be writing CSS in this tutorial, so this is the file. You can copy this from the repo to get all the styles. And then also we are going to have an updated sample images. So in the repo, you look at sample images. We're going to have all the sample images we're going to be using in this project. Please note that in the CSS file here, if you go to the index.css file, we're going to be linking a URL to this particular image, and this image is available in sample images in the repo. But if you want to use your own image, feel free to change this and point it to your particular image. So let's start with the basic header component, which will be our navigation bar. So let's close all this. So you can go to client src here, and we're going to create a components directory. Then here we're going to declare a header component, which is our navbar. So you can say new file here, going to be header.jsx. You're free to leave it at JS if you want. Then we're going to create an arrow function. So I can say React arrow function component exported. So I'm able to do this because I have an extension. I didn't mention this before. It's called React Redux something, this one. ES7 plus React Redux native snippets. So this enables me to have the snippets I use in my code. So feel free to install that if you want. Then let's proceed. So with the current version of React, you don't even need to have this import of React, but because of habit, I'll just leave it there. Then let's import some components from React Bootstrap. So you can say from React Bootstrap, we're going to import one is container, then nav, then navbar, then navbar, then nav dropdown. Then we're going to import from React icons. So you can say emd from React icons. So React, let me show you this actually. So on React icons here, enables you to install icons from all these providers. There's Font Awesome, Feather, Flat Icons, Game Icons, and all this. So I'm going to use an icon from Game Icons. So I can say, yeah, React icons slash Game Icons. If you want Font Awesome, just slash FA. All this is in the documentation. You can say GI there. And the font I want to get is GI House. So if you look for a font, let's say we're on Game Icons here, you just search. So I'm looking for GI House, like that. I want this icon. Then next, you're going to import from React Router Bootstrap. So React Router Bootstrap, we're going to import link container. And now we can start off customizing our header. So what you can do to avoid typing too much, let's go to React Bootstrap. Let me see React Bootstrap here. Then let's just go to components. And what I'm looking for is the navbar. Let's have a working point. So let me just copy this to have a starting point. So we can just bring, so what you're going to do here, let's clear this. Then we're going to have a header component like that. Whoa, header component, then close the header component. And then now we bring in the code we copied, navbar. Good. So we're going to customize this a bit. So we're going to say navbar is going to be fixed at the top. So you can say fixed to the top. Then the background is going to be dark. Then expand LG. Then variant, so that our text is white. So you can say variant here is going to be dark. Then collapse on select. You can say add collapse on select as a prop. Then we're going to have our container. Then for our navbar brand, we're going to point this to the home page. You're not going to be using href. So to do this, get rid of that. Then we're going to wrap our navbar in the link container. So you can say link container, then wrap this navbar in the link container. So I thought we'd imported link. Okay, let me import it again. So you can say from React Router, is it from React Router Bootstrap? Yeah. We're going to import link container. Then we import our GI icons. I don't know why it, oh, goes on save. If I have any imports I'm not using, I'd set my VS Code to automatically remove those imports. So that's why. Let's bring back in. Let's proceed. So here we can say link container. So the link container now, navbar brand. So here we're going to put an icon. So the icon is going to be GI house. Then close that. So actually it's a self-closing tag. Then we can have real estate. So navbar brand GI. So we can have a class name for some styling. For our icon, we're going to, the styling is called nav. This is nav icon. Then here we can change this to make this real estate. Let's save to format this a bit. Then the link container, this is going to now point us to the home directory. So you can say to the path of home, like that. Then we're going to do the toggle basic navbar for the navbar collapse. The ID is the same. Then what you can do here, you can add another class. So here you can say for the navbar collapse, the class name here, the class name there is going to be justify content. So we're going to justify our content to the end. So you can say justify content to the end. But all these classes are in the documentation if you want to refer. Then for this nav, the class name is going to be margin left auto. Then you're no longer going to have this href links. Let's delete this other link. And remember, when you're using React Bootstrap, so if you want to route links, use link container as we did before. You can say link container here, this, then close that. Then bring the home link up there. Then that's basically it for that. Then you're going to have another link container to properties. So we can say here within the same nav here, just copy home, take it down. This is going to be to /properties like that. Then the nav link there is going to be properties. Then we're going to have the drop down. Let's just leave the drop down for now, but let's reduce them. They're a bit too many. Let's just leave 2. And then that's basically it for the header. So save that component. And then next, we're going to create a spinner component to be displayed when our application is in the pending state. So in the same components directory here, create a new file. We're going to call this spinner. Whoa. Spinner.jsx. Then with the shortcut React arrow function components exported. And here we're just going to basically have a div with a class name. So if you go back to React Bootstrap, it also has its spinners. So you can use these spinners if you want, this spinner component, but you're also free to create your own. We're going to create our own spinner component here. You can say SSS class is going to be spinner container. Then going to create another div. So here is going to be a div with a class name of spinner. So these classes are, remember, they're defined in the CSS file. Then save that. And that's basically it for the spinner component. Then next, you're going to declare the footer component. So components footer.js, create a new file here, footer.jsx, then React arrow function component exported. Then we're going to have some imports from React Bootstrap. So you can say from React Bootstrap, I want the column, then container, then the row. And then for the footer here, we're going to wrap in the footer tag. So you can say footer. In the footer tag, we want a container, then the row. So container, then we want a row, then we want a column. So the column is going to have a class name. The class name is going to be give padding y on the y-axis to 3. And then here we can have copyright, ampersand and copy. Then you can say real estate. And we're going to put in the year. So you can see a new date. We're going to use the date method, then get. We're going to use the get full year method. Then save that. Then next, let's also create some basic pages, one for the home page and the other for the properties page. So let's close all these components. So we can say in the src directory here, we're going to create a new directory. So a new folder here, we're going to call this pages. We're going to have one for the components. Those are the small bits of our UI. Then for the actual pages that are going to be displayed in the browser, the first page is going to be homepage. So new file. Let's call this homepage.jsx. Then as usual, do our imports. Then from React Bootstrap, so I want to bring in some components. So here I want to bring in button and the container component. Then from React Router Bootstrap, I want to bring in link container. Then let's declare a homepage. So when we're going to have an empty fragment, then we can have a header component. So this component is going to have some classes. So from our CSS file, the class name we want is called master head, like that. Then main, background, image, like that. Then you're going to have a container component. So this container is going to have some classes. So you can say class name. So we want padding on the X and Y axis to be 4. Padding X on the large displays to be 5. Then deflex using flexbox. Then the high, the H100. Then you want to align our items on the center. Then we want to justify content. And we want to justify the content at the center. Then you're going to have another div with a class of deflex and justify content center. Then you're going to have another div with a class name of text center. Then you're going to have a h1 with a class of mx outer to center it at the center. Then margin y is 0. And then text uppercase. Here we're going to put the heading is real estate. Then you're going to have a h2 just beneath the h1. So you can see h2, the class name of text white 50, then mx auto, then margin at the top is 2, then margin at the bottom is 5. Then for the h2, we can just say the one stop, what do we say? The one stop shop for all matters properties. Buy, you can say buy, rent, or sell with us. Then you're going to have a link container here. So you can, did you bring in link container? Yes. So you can say link container. Then this is going to be the two properties slash properties, like that. And then you're going to have a button. So button, the variant is going to be primary. And then the text in the button is just going to be get started. And that's basically it for the homepage component. Save that. So with our homepage done, what I forgot to do is add our image to our src. So in client src directory, we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call this images. Then in the repo, there is the sample images directory. Just copy buildings. We're going to copy it to client src, then paste it in here into images. And let's just close all that. And then you're going to create a basic properties page. So in pages, create a new file here. We're going to call this properties page.jsx. Then as usual, our imports. So here we're going to import from React Bootstrap. We can say import from React Bootstrap. We want to bring in column, container, and row. And then for the properties page here, what you're going to have is a fragment. Then we can say here container, and then you can have a row, then a column. So for this column, we're going to have a class name here. It's going to be mgtop, and then you're going to have a h1. Here we're going to say, what can you say? Let's say properties for now will be displayed here, like that. And that marks it for the simple properties page. Then save this. Then with those basic components done, let's wire them up in the app.jsx file, this time using React Router version 6. So back in app.jsx, we're going to have some imports. So we can say first from React Router DOM, we're going to import browser router as router. Then we're going to bring in route, and this time there's a new one called routes in React Router version 6. Then we're also going to import React Toastify. So you can say from React Toastify, what you want to bring here is a toast container. You can say toast container, like that. And then you're going to bring in our components. So you can say import from ./components. You're going to bring in the header component. Then import from ./components. You're going to bring in the footer component. Then from ./components, homepage. What is it? Components slash. Oh, no. We want to bring in the pages now. This is not components, this is pages. We want to bring in the homepage. And then you also want to bring in the properties page. So this is going to be homepage. Then from footer, here it's not second. Wow. From header, we're supposed to bring in the header component. This is supposed to be footer. And then next, from properties, so we can say .pages /properties page. We're going to bring in properties page. Properties page, like that. And then here, let's clear out everything. We can have a fragment in our app. And then we have a router. Everything is encompassed in a router. So let's close that. And then within the router, we want to bring in the header component. So header, like that. We want to bring in the footer component also. Then between the header and the footer, there's where we're going to declare the main body of our UI. You can say bring in the main tag. Then this main tag is going to have a class name. So the class name is going to be padding y, which is 3. And then within the main, we're going to have routes. With React Router version 6, everything is encompassed in now routes. So within the routes, we're going to declare our route. So the route here is going to be, the path is going to be /, which is home. With React Router version 6, we don't have to add in this exact like we did before with React Router version 5. You can say route there, the path, then the element. So element here is going to be our homepage. Close that. Then since we want the homepage to have a banner image, then the subsequent pages are going to have different routes in it. We can have 2 routes. So we can have another routes here. You're going to see what I mean. So routes here, we declare another route. Then the path is going to be to properties. And then the element is going to be properties page, like that. Then let me see. Basically that's it. Then let's bring in the toast container. So under the router, we can say toast container. And then that's basically it for this. So what you can do is we can go back to our browser and check how the basic web page looks like. So go back to your browser and you should have a page like this. So real estate. Then if you click on get started, we go to the route of /properties. Now we have properties will be displayed here. Then the navigation here, you can click on real estate to go back home, or click on the properties link here, takes you to properties, and home takes you back to home. So with this good progress done, as usual, for safety, let's commit our code. So let's go back to our IDE and the Git client. This is we basically done chores actually. Let's say this is a chore. Let's say setup basic home and properties page, then make the commit. So now let's work with Redux Toolkit. After installing Redux Toolkit, you realize like it installed the dependencies like Redux Tank, React Redux, and all those other dependencies for us. And also for free with Redux Toolkit in the SRC, we realized that our store is configured for us. We didn't have to manually configure the store like we did in the previous tutorial. So it's going to make our work slightly easier. So with Redux Toolkit, there is also a concept of slicing, like I had mentioned before, in which our application state is separated into slices, which are small portions of state, by using the create slice function. So the create slice function is a function that accepts an initial state, an object of reducer functions, and a slice name. And then it automatically generates action creators and action types that correspond to the reducers and the state. That's one of the advantages of using Redux Toolkit. So let's build our first slice. It will make more sense then. So in the SRC directory here, we're going to features, then you're going to create a properties directory. So create a new folder here. We're going to call this properties. In the properties directory, we're going to create a property slice. So create a new file here. We're going to call this property slice.js. So here we're going to import create slice from Redux Toolkit. So you can say you have to make sure it's at Redux Toolkit, Redux.js/toolkit like that. Here we're going to bring in create slice. And then now we're going to declare our initial state. With the Redux, remember we had to create a reducers folder, then an action folders, then action types, all the stuff, then bring it back to your store. With Redux Toolkit with Redux Toolkit in the slice, you declare your slice there and also declare your initial state all in one file. So you can say const initial state. So for initial state, what we want is properties. So properties is going to be an empty array. Then we'll also want property to get a single property like that. And that should be by default an empty object. Then you're going to have is error. Should there be any errors? So by default is false. Then is loading. Default is also going to be false. Then is success. By default is false. Then should there be any messages? So you can say message. Just going to be an empty string. Then now let's declare our slice. So you can say export const property slice is going to be create slice. So with the create slice here, we're going to say curly braces, then an object. So the name, it requires a name. So the name is going to be property. This is property singular. Then we're going to pass in the initial state like that. So shorthand, you can do initial state, but shorthand for that is just initial state. Then reducers. So any reducers. So one, we're just going to have one for resetting our state. So this one takes in state and just returns the initial state. This basically a reducer to reset our initial state. And then the slice also takes something called an extra reducer. So you can just say extra reducers like that. And this takes in a builder. Then for now, let's just return an empty object like that. So the builder callback function is basically used to add more reducers where the keys should be the action types. We're going to use this. You'll see this in action. So after creating the property slice, what you do is just export. You can say export const. So here what you just want to export is reset. That's all we have. And you say property slice dot actions like that. Something else we need to export is now the reducer. So you can say export default property slice dot reducer, then save that file. So now that we've added our reducer, like we did in core Redux, we have to go back to our store. So go back to app store.js and add this reducer. So now we can say import property reducer from the dot slash features slash properties slash property slice, like that. And then we can say for the reducer here, we can say properties is the property reducer. Whoa, is a property reducer, like that. Then save that file. So with the container running, let's go back to our browser, navigate to localhost 8080. Then I hope you have the Chrome Redux tools installed in your machine, in your browser, sorry. So if you go to Redux, then you navigate to state and then tree, you're going to see our initial state. This is how you know that you've set up Redux Toolkit correctly. And as you can see, like our work has been dramatically reduced. This is all we need to bring in our state of properties, property, error, loading, and message, as you can see there. So as we have seen with Redux Toolkit, there is less boilerplate to get set up with Redux properly. So let's now handle asynchronous fetching of our properties with Redux Toolkit. What you do in your properties directory here, we're going to create a property API service. So create a new file here. We're going to call this property. In the documentation, they just say property API, but I just want to make it explicit so I can call mine API service that I know. Then here we're going to make asynchronous API calls using Axios. So we can say import Axios from Axios. Then here we can say get properties. Whoa. Then we can say const get properties. That's going to be an asynchronous function. Then we don't require request, response, and next. That's in Node.js. Then you can say constant response. The response you're going to get is from await axios.get. We're going to make a get request. And you're going to make a get request to /API/v1/ was it properties.all? Let me just confirm. If you go to API v1 properties.all, yes, that's the route I want to navigate to. You can say API v1 properties/all, then the closing slash, and then we can say here we're going to basically return response dot data, like that. And then we can say const property API service, service is going to be, we're going to export this get properties that, and then you can say export default property API service. So here is where we're making our synchronous API calls. So where do we declare our action creator as we did in core Redux? We do all that in the property slice. So back in the property slice here, let's add our action creator using a function called create async thank function. This is also a function from Redux Toolkit. It's important to note that with Redux Toolkit, the slice will have the state, reducers, action creators, as I said before, all within this file. They're not separated into different files and folders like we do in vanilla Redux. So here with create slice, we can also bring in create async thank. To create sync thank, which basically uses the thank middleware, and we don't have to do any setup by ourselves. That's another beauty of Redux Toolkit. Okay, anyway, when I keep on saying beauty, it's not that I'm a fanboy of Redux Toolkit, but having developed Redux applications before, Redux Toolkit makes life very easy. Okay, slightly, not very easy, but slightly easier than it was with vanilla Redux. What we need to bring in now is our API service. So from property API service, what you're going to bring in is a property API service. Oh, property API service. Then now let's create our action creator. This is create slice. So what you do, we do that before the slice here. So here we can say get all properties. So here the create async thank takes an action type, string, and a callback function that should return a promise. So we can say here export const get properties, which is going to be create async thank, that which uses the thank middleware behind the scenes. Then remember with core Redux we had like a types file where we created our constants for action types. With create async thank and Redux Toolkit, we declare that as a string here, and there's a convention to use. So the convention is the feature folder. So for us, it's going to be properties, like that, then slash, then the function. So for us, we want to get all, like that. We want to get all properties. So this is the convention to use. Then we're going to call in our async function, async function, like that. So our async function is going to be an arrow function. So for this, let me just see. So here, basically, let me just format this. So in our async function, the first parameter, since it's a GET request, we're not passing in any data like that, but you need to pass in the thank API because it uses thanks. It uses Redux thank in the background. So pass in thank API like that. And then we're going to have a try catch block. So try catch. Then here, first, we're going to return await from the property API service dot get all properties. Not get all properties, just get, let me just confirm. From our API service, we exported get properties. So here we're going to say get properties, like that, call it. Then, should there be any errors, here we're going to say const message is going to be. So for example, if you have from the response object, we have error.response, and we have from error.response.data also has something, and error.response.data.message also contains an error. We're going to pass that to message. This is the wrong spelling, that's message. Or there is an error.message or error.toString, like that. We're going to pass all this to this message variable. And then we have to return, if there's an error, we're going to reject. So the thank API has a method called reject with value. So we're going to return here from the thank API from Redux Toolkit, we're going to say reject with value, and the value you want to pass in is a message, like that. That's basically how we do our action creators in Redux Toolkit. And then now we're going to go back to the extra reducers. So when you're using the create thank API service, it has different actions. So by default, there is the pending state, not action, sorry. There is the pending state, there is the fulfilled state, and there is the rejected state using the thank API. As you can see here, there is reject with value. So there's some different states we want to add cases for. So here we can just say from builders, actually this is not builders, this is builder, like that. Then we can say for the builder, so as we did with reducers in normal Redux, we can add a case. So you just say dot add case. So here we're going to say from get properties, and remember get properties is here. So we have a pending state. So there's a pending state. So for the pending state, here I'm going to say state is going to be state dot is loading. So is loading here. We're going to set that to true. Remember initially here we had said loading is false. All these are false. So now we are changing it here depending on the state. So if you're in the pending state, that is true. Then you're going to add another case. So you can say add case here. Or for get properties, if you're in the fulfilled state, meaning we have some data. So it takes in state as a normal reducer and an action. Here we can say state is loading is false because we have our data. Then we can say state that is success is false. No, it's true, sorry, because it's been fulfilled. Then state now, since it's been fulfilled, now the properties piece of state, the properties piece of state should now get from our action dot payload. Then that's basically it for that. Then you're going to add another case, add case for get properties dot rejected. If it's rejected, passes in a state and an action. Then here we're going to say state that is loading is false, state that is error is going to be true, state dot message is going to be the action dot payload. Save that file, and then that's basically it for these particular cases. So whenever you make any API request, and we're using the create async thank, or always, it's advisable to always like take care of these cases of pending, fulfilled, and rejected. So before we continue building out our properties page, let's make a slight change to the property serializer method. So go back to the back end. So in the back end here, let's go to apps, then properties, and then you're looking for serializers. Just want to confirm something here. So let me see. Did you get a profile photo? No. So what you can do here is, let's just say profile underscore photo is going to be serializers or serializer method field. And let's declare that method. So here, when at the bottom, it's okay. You can just say define get underscore profile underscore photo, takes in self and an object. You can just return object dot user dot profile photo URL, profile underscore photo and dot URL, like that. Let's say object dot user dot profile underscore photo dot URL. Save that. Then let's go back to our React client. So what you can do here in the properties page now. So let's go to pages. In the properties page, let's bring in our piece of state and set up our basic properties page here. So from React, now we can bring in use effect, the use effect. Then from what else? From React Redux, we need to use the use dispatch and the use selector. So you can say import from React Redux. We're bringing in use dispatch, which is used to dispatch action creators, and use selector to select our piece of state. So selector, like that. Then we can bring in our spinner component. So you can see import from /components/ spinner. We can bring in the spinner component. Then from the property slice, so you can say from the property slice, it's in features, properties. Then we bring in the property slice. So here we want to bring in get properties and reset. So remember, if you go to the slice, we are bringing in get properties. Yeah, that's our action creator, and reset. Yeah. So what you need to do here is, first, we're going to use the use selector hook to select the properties piece of state. So you can say const. We can destructure. What do we need for this? We need properties is loading and is success. Bring in from use selector. So use selector, which takes in state, and we want from our piece of state, we want to return the state.properties, like that. Then next, what do we want? We want to use the use dispatch. So you can say const dispatch is going to be use dispatch, then call that. Then you're going to use the use effect hook, which basically tells React that the component needs to do something after render. That is when the component mounts. You can say use effect here. So here, first one, we can say, let's just get rid of this. We can say arrow function. So here we're going to dispatch get properties. We want to get our properties when our component mounts or renders. And then use effect takes some dependencies. So the first dependency is dispatch. And then we're going to have spinner. So if, for example, is loading is true, if in the loading state, we want to bring in our spinner. We want to return our spinner component. And then basically here now, let's leave everything as it is before, as it was before, sorry. Then we just save this file. Now, if you go back to your browser, you should be able to navigate to the properties page and then get the default properties page message. And if you look at the Redux DevTools, our properties piece of state should be populated with our data from our database. Let's confirm this. So in real estate, go to properties. As you can see, our spinner is loading. Good, our spinner component is working. Then once our data has been loaded, so go back to, on the Redux extension here, on the state, click on properties. Properties is still request failed, the status code of 500. It was rejected. Okay, as you can see from our error, our action creators were being fired, properties get all pending, then it was rejected. And if you see in the state here, the beauty about the way we set up our applications, for the message you're told the request failed with a status code of 500. This is an internal server error. I'm suspecting I made a mistake in our server. Let me see. I go to API v1 properties.all. So let's say properties.all. Nice, from the mistake we did. Okay, good. So if you go back to here, let's go to properties serializers. We declare this property serializer method, but you didn't add it in the fields. So for fields here, we can just say here profile underscore photo, then save this. So if you make this request, good, it now works. So if you go back here and refresh, good, you can see now our actions. Properties get all was pending, then properties get all fulfilled. And if you look at our state down here, click on properties. So we have properties is now fulfilled. There is a count of 1. If you look at the results, 0. Now we have our property. So since I only have one property, only one result is showing. You might have more, but now at least we confirm that everything is working. Then let's just confirm that our spinner still works. So what you can do maybe on network, let's go to throttling, make this a slow 3G connection. Then let's reload our page. Let's see if our spinner works. Good. Our spinner is working. Good. Nice. So make sure if you change this network speed, always go back and reset it to no throttling. Then on Redux, everything seems to be working well. So as you can see, like Redux Toolkit makes things very, very easy. It might get a while for you to get around this syntax, but we are going to do this over and over and over again, and it will become second nature. So we shall continue building out this page and others in the next tutorial. Otherwise, let's commit our code. So come back here and say, this was a feature. Yes. Add property slice, then make our commit. So thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.